What I want to do next is come up with a way to compare investment vehicle returns. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a general formula to figure out what the value of $1 invested in the fund would be over time. And the formula is general enough that we can compare a fund that has a certain set of fees to another fund that has a different set of fees, and then solve for what the returns must be for you to be indifferent. So here's how we'll do this. And here's an example. An actively managed mutual fund, okay, so this is an actively managed fund, holds large cap stocks. It charges an annual management fee of 4% of assets under management, and it charges a 12B1 fee of 1%, and there's a 6% front-end load. Okay, so this is an open-ended fund, because remember, only open-ended funds charge front-end loads. And so this is the sales commission to buy the fund. And to remember how this works is that for every $100 I put in the fund, 6%, $6 goes back to the salesperson, and only 94 gets invested in the fund. The alternative is an ETF, or an exchange-traded fund, that tracks the S&P 500, so also large cap stocks, and so I'm comparing, in this case, apples to apples, and charges an annual management fee of just 15 basis points. So this one charges 400 plus another 100. This one only charges 15 basis points. No other fees, and because popular ETFs, because the trading costs are so low, we'll ignore them for this example. So here's some more information. The expected annualized holding period return for the S&P 500 is 10% a year. So I expect a geometric average return of 10% on the S&P 500. I'm just making that number up to something round. And you have a 15-year holding period. Okay, so that means I'm going to try to amortize the 6% sales commission and this 5% annual fee relative to getting charged very small fees and nothing to buy this thing over a 15-year period. And what I want to do is I want to compute the expected wealth index for the S&P 500 and then see how much this manager needs to earn relative to the 10% that the S&P 500 is going to earn in order to make me indifferent. So here's my equation. And this is a very general equation. It'll fit all different kinds of stuff. A front load, a performance fee. Notice the performance fee is multiplied by R, and then an annual fee which is subtracted from R. So a 5% annual fee is subtracted from whatever R is, but a performance fee, like a 2 and 20, the 20% is a performance fee, meaning I only keep one minus 20 or 80% that's multiplied. In this particular example, there are no performance fees, and so this is going to be 0, but I do have annual fees, and so this will either be 0.15% or 5%, depending on which of the two examples. And then the front load, but in this case, no back load. So the return on the S&P 500 is expected to be 10%. And so for the ETF, the only fee is the 0.15%. This is not a performance fee. It's a regular annual fee. And so I'm just going to plug into this equation for the ETF and compute its wealth index. 1 minus the 0 front-end load times 1 plus the 0.1R times 1 minus 0 minus the 0.0015. And then I'm going to take that to the 15th power because there's 15 years. And then there's no back end load, and so $1 earning 10% but charged the 15 basis point fee will be worth 1.0985 per year over 15 years. It'll be worth $4.0926. The next thing is to calculate the necessary annualized holding period return, R, gross of fees or before fees, that the investor must earn, so that net of fees or after fees, the investor is indifferent between the ETF and the active. That's how we'll ask this question. How much does this manager need to earn here to account for the front load, the high annual fees over that 15-year period? And so here's the annual fee for the fund, here's the 12B1 fee for the fund, and here is the front load. And so we set both of the WIs equal, and we solve for the unknown R. So let's do this for the active wealth index. Same formula, but now I'm going to plug in 6% for the front end load, 0 for the performance fee. This is not a hedge fund, so there is no performance fee, but this equation would work for a hedge fund if they were charging me a 20% performance fee. And there's 2 of the annual fees. There's a 4% management fee and a 12B1 fee, which exactly the same from the investor's perspective, but the fund is able to split it out and charge them for 2 separate things. Again, for 15 years, no back end load, and so I get 0.94, well, minus 0.06, times 1 plus R minus the 5% must equal the 15 to the 15th power must equal what the ETF is going to equal. And so I set this equation equal to the value I solved for before, and now I want to solve for the R. And I first divide by the 0.94, and this accounts for the fact that only 94% of my money actually makes it into the fund. I take that to the 1 over 15th, I subtract 1 plus 0.05, and I end up with 15.30. And the way I interpret that 15.30 is that if I plug in 15.30 here, I'm going to get, or 15.30 here, I'm going to get exactly 4.0926, which means that the active manager must earn 15.30% per year for an investor to be indifferent between the active mutual fund and the ETF. And so the active manager must beat the S&P 500 by 5.30% each year for the investor to be indifferent between the two, to account for this 6% front-end load, the 4% management fee, and the 1% 12B1 fee. Last thing we'll talk about are 40 Act funds and liquid alternatives. And 40 Act funds are any funds that follow the rules of the Investment Company Act of 1940. And this is the law which defines the rules for mutual funds and ETFs and other investment vehicles that are available to the public. Non-40 Act funds include the limited partnership investment vehicles like the VC funds and the PE funds and the hedge funds. And so this act defines the responsibilities and requirements of investment companies and publicly offered investments. But in recent years, we have seen certain types of funds which attempt to employ some of the strategies we saw for hedge funds, but make them available to the public. And these are referred to as liquid alternatives. But the term 40 Act fund is sometimes used as a shorthand to describe mutual funds and ETFs. And so all mutual funds and all ETFs, they all fall under the rules of the Investment Company Act of 1940. They are all called 40 Act funds. And so sometimes this is used as a shorthand to describe mutual funds and ETFs.